Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and welcome back to Native Speakers.
And I'm Johnny. We're here to help you master English through real conversations and practical tips.
Today we're tackling something so many of you have asked about, how to actually learn English when life gets crazy busy.
Right, because let's be honest, deadlines don't care about your language learning goals. So let's dive in.
Okay, Johnny, confession time. Remember last month when I was trying to prepare for that presentation and study for my French exam at the same time?
Oh, do I remember? You were walking around the office muttering French verbs and looking like you hadn't slept in days.
Laughs, exactly. And that's when I realized most people learning English are in the same boat. They're not full-time students sitting in a classroom. They're juggling work deadlines, family responsibilities, and trying to squeeze in English practice somewhere in between.
You know what's interesting, though? I actually learned Spanish while working a full-time job with insane deadlines. And looking back, the time pressure actually helped me in some weird ways.
Really? How so?
Well, when you don't have unlimited time, you get really strategic about what you learn. You can't waste time on stuff that doesn't matter. It's like, have you ever noticed how you get so much done the day before you go on vacation?
Oh my gosh, yes. I cleaned my entire apartment, finished 3 work projects, and packed in like 6 hours last time.
Exactly. That's called Parkinson's Law. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So if you give yourself 2 hours to learn English, you'll use 2 hours efficiently. But if you say, I have all day, you'll probably waste most of it scrolling through your phone.
Okay, that's actually brilliant. So the first secret is actually using your deadlines as motivation.
Absolutely. But here's the thing, you have to be smart about it. Let me give you a real example. Last year, I had a client who needed to improve her English for a business presentation in 3 months. 3 months! And she was working 60-hour weeks.
That sounds impossible.
That's what she thought too. But we broke it down. Instead of thinking, I need to learn English, we got specific. What exactly did she need for that presentation? Business vocabulary, clear pronunciation of key terms, and confidence in Q&A situations.
So you didn't waste time on stuff she didn't need right away.
Exactly. We didn't focus on past perfect continuous tenses or idioms about the weather. We focused on what would get her through that deadline successfully. And you know what? After she nailed that presentation, she had so much confidence that she kept going with broader English learning.
I love that approach. It reminds me of something my time management coach told me. She said, you can't do everything, but you can do anything. You just have to choose what that anything is.
Your time management coach was spot on, and this brings us to the coffee break concept, which I'm obsessed with.
Coffee break learning, yes. Okay, explain this because I know our viewers are thinking, I barely have time for actual coffee breaks, let alone studying during them.
Right, but that's exactly the point. How long is a typical coffee break? 10 minutes? 15?
Yeah, about that.
Perfect. In 15 minutes, you can't learn everything about English, but you can learn something. You can practice 10 new vocabulary words. You can listen to one short podcast episode. You can read a news article and look up the words you don't know.
So it's about consistency over intensity.
Exactly. I'd rather have someone practice English for 15 minutes every single day than study for 3 hours once a week and then burn out.
You know what's funny? I actually tested this theory on myself. For 1 month, I committed to learning 5 new English idioms during my morning coffee. Just 5. Every single morning while I drank my coffee and ate breakfast.
And?
By the end of the month, I had learned 150 new idioms. And because I was using them in real time, like I'd learn one and then try to use it in a conversation that same day, they actually stuck.
That's the key right there, immediate application. Your brain is much more likely to remember something if you use it within 24 hours of learning it.
Okay, so we've got strategic focus and coffee break consistency. What about when you have a massive deadline looming and you feel like you should just pause your English learning completely?
Ah, the classic mistake. I see this all the time. Someone is learning English consistently, then a big work deadline hits, and they think, I'll just stop studying for 2 weeks and focus on work.
And then 2 weeks becomes a month, and a month becomes 3 months.
Exactly. It's so much harder to restart than to maintain momentum. This is where Brian Tracy's time management principles really shine. He talks about the idea of eating the frog.
Eating the what now?
It's a metaphor. If you had to eat a live frog, you'd want to do it first thing in the morning and get it over with, right?
So, eating the frog means doing your most important or most dreaded task first.
Oh, so for English learners, that might mean doing your English practice first thing in the morning before work gets crazy.
Bingo! Even if it's just 10 minutes, get it done before your energy is depleted and before a million other things demand your attention.
I actually do this now. I wake up 20 minutes earlier and do my English practice before I even check my emails, because once I open that inbox, it's game over.
Same here. And here's another secret. You can actually combine your deadline work with your English practice. Wait, what? How?
Okay, so let's say you're a student and you have to write a research paper for your biology class. That's your deadline, right?
Right.
What if you wrote your notes in English? What if you searched for some of your research sources in English? What if you joined an online study group where people discuss biology topics in English?
Oh, that's clever. You're making your deadline work double as English practice.
Exactly. Or let's say you're a professional and you have to prepare a project report. Could you watch a YouTube video in English about project management techniques? Could you read an English article about your industry?
So you're learning English and becoming better at your job at the same time.
Precisely. This is what I call integrated learning, and it's a total game changer for busy people.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. What about when you're just completely overwhelmed? Like, we can talk about strategies all day, but sometimes you're so stressed about a deadline that you can't even think straight, let alone practice English.
That's a really important point, Sarah. And honestly, in those moments, you need to give yourself permission to just breathe and focus on the deadline. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint.
So it's okay to have off days?
Absolutely. But here's the secret. Even on your worst, most stressed out days, you're still exposed to English. You might see English signs, hear English music, or read English social media posts. That passive exposure still counts for something.
Right. Your brain is still processing the language even when you're not actively studying.
Exactly. And this is where I want to share one of my favorite time management secrets for language learners, the 2-minute rule.
Ooh, I haven't heard of this one. Tell me more.
The 2-minute rule says that if something takes less than 2 minutes to do it immediately. Don't put it on a to-do list, don't schedule it for later, just do it right now.
How does that apply to English learning?
So many ways. See a word you don't know? Look it up immediately. Takes 30 seconds. Want to practice the pronunciation of a phrase? Say it out loud 3 times right now. Takes 1 minute. Want to review your vocabulary flashcards? You can go through 10 cards in 2 minutes.
Oh, I love this because it removes all the mental friction. You're not thinking, I should study later. You're just doing tiny bits constantly.
And those tiny bits add up fast. If you do 3 2-minute English activities throughout your day, that's 6 minutes. Do that for a month, and you've practiced for 3 hours without ever feeling like you sat down to study.
This is making me think about how we procrastinate on English learning. We make it this big, intimidating thing in our heads.
Right. Today I'm going to study English. Feels heavy. But I'm going to learn 3 words during my coffee break. Feels totally doable.
Okay, so here's a question our viewers might be thinking. What if the deadline itself is in English? Like, what if you have to write a report in English or give a presentation in English, and that's stressing you out?
Ah, now we're getting into the deep stuff. This is where time management and English learning really collide.
Give us a real example.
Okay, so I had a student, let's call him Marco. Marco worked for an international company and he had to present quarterly results to the board in English. He had 2 weeks to prepare and he was panicking.
2 weeks doesn't sound that bad, though.
Well, Marco's English was intermediate level. He could have conversations, but presenting complex financial data in English, that was a different beast. Plus, he was working on the actual content of the presentation at the same time.
Oh, wow. So he was managing the deadline and trying to improve his English simultaneously.
Exactly. So here's what we did. First, we broke down the presentation into sections: introduction, financial overview, quarterly highlights, challenges, and future outlook. 5 sections.
Okay, manageable chunks.
Right. Then we identified the key vocabulary for each section. Not all business English, just the specific terms he needed. Words like revenue, expenditure, profit margin, and stakeholder. We made a targeted list of about 50 words.
50 words in 2 weeks? That's totally doable.
Completely. But here's where the time management magic happened. We scheduled his English practice around his energy levels. Marco is a morning person, so we had him practice pronunciation and difficult vocabulary in the morning when his brain was fresh.
Smart. When he's at his best, work on the hardest stuff.
Exactly. Then in the afternoon, when his energy dipped, he'd do easier tasks like reading through his script or listening to similar presentations in English on YouTube.
So he was matching the task difficulty to his energy levels throughout the day.
Right. And in the evenings, he'd do something relaxing but still English-related, like watching business shows in English with subtitles. No pressure, just exposure.
How did the presentation go?
He crushed it. And you know what he told me afterwards? He said the time constraint actually forced him to improve faster than he would have otherwise.
Because he couldn't procrastinate or waste time on irrelevant stuff.
Exactly. And that brings me to another crucial time management principle for language learners, the 80-20 rule, also called the Pareto principle.
I've heard of this. Isn't it something like 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts?
Precisely. In English learning, this is huge. Not all vocabulary is equally important. Not all grammar rules come up with the same frequency.
So if you're pressed for time, you want to focus on the 20% of English that will give you 80% of the results?
Exactly. For example, the 100 most common English words make up about 50% of all written English. The 1,000 most common words make up about 80%.
So if you're pressed for time, focus on high-frequency words rather than obscure vocabulary.
Right. Learn important before you learn imperative. Learn change before you learn metamorphosis.
This is so practical. Okay, what about grammar? Because I feel like grammar is where people get stuck in the weeds.
Great question. Here's the truth. If you're managing deadlines and trying to learn English, perfect grammar is not your priority. Communication is your priority.
Ooh, controversial, but I actually agree.
Look, I would love for everyone to master all 12 English tenses and understand the subjunctive mood, but if you're preparing for a business meeting next week, you need to prioritize being understood over being grammatically perfect.
So focus on the grammar that actually impedes communication.
Exactly. Subject-verb agreement? Important because he goes sounds very wrong. Past versus present tense? Important because timeline matters. Using whom correctly? Honestly, most native speakers get this wrong anyway.
So true. I never use whom in real conversation.
Right. This is about being strategic with your limited time. And speaking of strategy, let's talk about time management skills that directly help with language learning.
Yes, because time management itself is a skill you can learn.
Absolutely. And one of the most powerful skills is something called time blocking. Have you heard of this?
I have. It's where you block out specific chunks of time for specific activities, right?
Exactly. Instead of having a vague goal like, I'll study English sometime today, you literally put it on your calendar. Tuesday, 7 to 7:15 a.m., English vocabulary practice.
And you treat it like an appointment that you can't cancel.
Precisely. When something is scheduled, you're much more likely to actually do it. I tell my students to open their calendars right now and block out their English practice time for the entire week.
That's commitment.
It is, but here's the beautiful part. You're only committing to small blocks. 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. It doesn't feel overwhelming, but it adds up to real progress.
What about flexibility, though? Because life happens, deadlines change, and unexpected things come up.
Great point. This is where we need to talk about the difference between being rigid and being consistent. Being rigid means I must practice English from 7 to 7:15 a.m. every single day, no matter what. Being consistent means I practice English every day, and I'm flexible about when.
So you're committed to the habit, but flexible about the execution?
Exactly. Maybe on Monday you practice in the morning, but on Tuesday you have an early meeting, so you practice during lunch instead. The key is not breaking the chain of daily practice.
I love that phrase. Don't break the chain. I actually use a habit tracker app for this.
Those are great. There's something satisfying about seeing that unbroken streak of daily practice. It becomes its own motivation.
Okay, so we've talked about strategies, but let's get into some real-life scenarios. I want to walk through what this actually looks like for different types of people.
Let's do it. Give me a scenario.
Okay, imagine you're a university student. You're taking 5 classes, you have papers due, exams coming up, and you're trying to improve your English because you want to study abroad next year.
Great scenario. So first question, what's your deadline? Let's say applications for study abroad are due in 6 months.
Okay, 6 months. That actually sounds like a lot of time.
Does it though? 6 months is about 180 days, but you're also a full-time student. Let's say, realistically, you can dedicate 30 minutes a day to English practice.
30 minutes seems doable.
That's 90 hours over 6 months. Now that's actually a decent amount of time, but only if you're consistent. Miss 1 week and you've lost about 3.5 hours. That's 4% of your total study time.
Wow, when you put it that way, consistency really matters.
Right. So for this student, I'd recommend the coffee break method combined with integrated learning. Practice English for 15 minutes in the morning. Maybe listen to a podcast while getting ready for class.
So you're multitasking.
Exactly. Then for one of your classes, try to find readings or research materials in English when possible. That's integrated learning. You're studying for your deadline and practicing English.
And that doesn't add any extra time to your schedule.
Precisely. Then maybe 15 minutes before bed, review vocabulary or write a quick journal entry in English about your day.
So you're getting your 30 minutes, but it's spread out and integrated into your existing routine.
Exactly. And here's a pro tip. Use your commute. If you take a bus or train to campus, that's perfect English practice time.
Okay, different scenario. What if you're a working professional with a crazy schedule? Maybe you're a parent too, so you have even less free time.
This is actually the majority of English learners. So let's be realistic. You might only have 15 minutes a day of truly free time.
15 minutes? That's not much.
It's not, but it's enough. Remember, we're playing the long game here. 15 minutes a day is 105 minutes a week, which is nearly 2 hours. That's about 8 hours a month.
Okay, 8 hours a month is actually significant.
Right, but the key for busy professionals is to make English practice as frictionless as possible. You can't have a complicated system because you won't stick to it.
So what do you recommend?
First, audio learning. Podcasts, audiobooks, and language learning apps with audio lessons. Why? Because you can listen while doing other things, commuting, cooking, exercising, even doing household chores.
So you're turning dead time into learning time.
Exactly. And second, I recommend 1-minute micro-learning. There are apps now where you can do a complete mini lesson in 60 seconds.
Seriously? 60 seconds?
Yep, You can do one while waiting for your coffee to brew, while standing in line at the grocery store, while waiting for a Zoom meeting to start. These tiny moments add up.
I never thought about it that way. We have so many little gaps in our day.
Exactly. And here's something Brian Tracy talks about a lot: the concept of edge time. These are the small pockets of time between activities that we usually waste.
Like waiting for a web page to load or waiting for someone to reply to your email.
Exactly. Instead of mindlessly scrolling social media during those moments, pull up your vocabulary flashcards. Review 3 words. That's it.
So we're talking about finding time in the margins of your day.
Precisely. And for busy professionals, this is often the only way to make it work without feeling overwhelmed.
But what about the mental load, though? Because I feel like when you're juggling work deadlines and personal responsibilities, adding one more thing to think about can be exhausting.
That's such an important point. This is where automation and habit stacking come in.
Habit stacking. Explain.
Habit stacking is when you attach a new habit to an existing habit. The formula is, after I do existing habit, I will do new habit.
Give me an example of English learning.
Sure. After I pour my morning coffee, I will review 5 vocabulary words. Or, after I brush my teeth at night, I will write 3 sentences in English about my day.
Oh, so you're piggybacking on habits that are already automatic.
Exactly. You're not trying to remember to practice English at some random time. It's built into something you already do every day without thinking.
That's brilliant because it reduces the mental load. You're not constantly thinking, I need to remember to practice English today.
Right. And once the habit stack becomes automatic, which takes about 2 to 3 weeks, it literally requires 0 mental energy. It just happens.
Okay, I want to talk about something we haven't addressed yet, motivation. Because even with all these strategies, there are days when you just don't feel like practicing English.
Oh, absolutely. Motivation is tricky because it comes and goes. That's why we can't rely on motivation alone.
What do you mean?
Well, think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up every morning feeling motivated and excited to brush your teeth?
Definitely not.
But you do it anyway, right? Why?
Because it's just what you do. It's a habit.
Exactly. You don't need motivation because it's an automatic behavior. That's what we want with English practice. We want it to become so routine that you do it whether you feel like it or not.
But how do you get to that point? Because when you're starting, you do need motivation.
True, so in the beginning, we use what I call micro-commitments. Don't commit to studying English for an hour. Commit to studying for 2 minutes.
2 minutes? That seems too short to be useful.
Here's the psychology, though. Once you start, you almost always continue beyond 2 minutes. It's the starting that's hard. But if you tell yourself, I only have to do this for 2 minutes, your brain doesn't resist as much.
Oh, so you're tricking yourself into starting.
Exactly. And usually after 2 minutes, you think, well, I'm already here, might as well do 5 more minutes, and suddenly you've practiced for 7 minutes instead of 0 minutes.
That's sneaky. I love it.
Another motivation technique is to tie your English learning to your deadlines in a positive way. Instead of thinking, ugh, I have this work deadline and I have to practice English, reframe it as, improving my English will help me handle this deadline better.
So you're making English learning part of the solution rather than an additional burden?
Exactly. For example, if you have to write a report, improving your English writing skills will make that report easier and better. It's not separate from your deadline, it's directly supporting it.
That's a really powerful mindset shift.
It really is, and this connects to something called intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation.
Okay, break that down for me.
Extrinsic motivation comes from external rewards, like, I'll learn English to get a better job, or I need English to pass this test. Intrinsic motivation comes from internal satisfaction, like, I enjoy learning English, or I feel proud when I understand an English conversation.
And intrinsic motivation is stronger.
Much stronger, because external circumstances can change. But if you genuinely enjoy the process, you'll keep going regardless of external factors.
So, how do you develop intrinsic motivation for English learning?
Great question. One way is to connect English to things you already love. If you love cooking, watch cooking shows in English. If you love sports, follow English-speaking sports channels. If you love gaming, play games in English.
Oh, so you're making English learning enjoyable by connecting it to your interests.
Exactly. When English becomes the vehicle for doing things you love, it stops feeling like work.
I actually did this when I was learning French. I love mystery novels, so I started reading Agatha Christie books in French translation.
Perfect example, and I bet you looked forward to that reading time.
I did. It didn't feel like studying at all.
That's the magic of intrinsic motivation. And when you're managing tight deadlines, having something you actually enjoy doing is crucial for maintaining your practice.
Okay, we've covered so much ground here. Let's talk about tracking progress, because I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged.
Yes, progress tracking is essential, but most people do it wrong.
What do you mean?
They measure the wrong things. They think, I've been learning English for 3 months and I'm still not fluent, so I'm failing.
But fluency isn't a 3-month goal.
Exactly. You need to measure progress in smaller, more immediate ways. Did you learn 5 new words this week? That's progress. Could you understand more of that podcast episode than you could last month? That's progress.
So celebrate the small wins.
Absolutely. And keep a progress journal. Every week, write down 3 things you can do in English now that you couldn't do last week.
Oh, I like that because it forces you to recognize your own improvement.
Right. It's so easy to focus on what you still can't do and forget about what you've already achieved.
What about when you're managing a specific deadline? How do you track progress there?
Good question. Let's say you have a presentation in English in 1 month. Your progress markers might be Week 1, master the key vocabulary. Week 2, can read through the entire script without stopping. Week 3, can present with minimal notes. Week 4, can present smoothly and handle basic questions.
So you're breaking the big goal into weekly milestones.
Exactly. And each week, you can clearly see if you're on track or if you need to adjust your approach.
That makes the deadline feel less overwhelming, too.
Definitely. It's the difference between, I have to give a presentation in English and I'm terrified, versus, this week I'm focusing on vocabulary and I'm making good progress.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to address one more thing. What happens when you fail? When you miss days of practice, or you bomb that English test, or you completely mess up that presentation?
Oh, you mean real life?
Exactly.
Look, failure is part of the process. It's not just normal, it's necessary. Every person who's ever learned a language has had moments of failure.
But it feels awful in the moment.
It does. But here's the perspective shift. Failure is just feedback. It's data. It tells you what you need to work on.
So instead of, I'm terrible at English, it's, I need more practice with this specific skill.
Exactly. And when you're managing deadlines, sometimes you will miss your English practice. Maybe you had a crazy day at work, or you got sick, or life just happened.
And that's okay?
It has to be okay. The key is not to let one missed day turn into a week and not to use it as an excuse to quit entirely.
So what do you do if you've missed a few days?
First, no guilt. Guilt is useless and just makes you feel bad. Second, just start again. You don't need to make up the missed days. Just do today's practice.
So you're giving yourself grace.
Absolutely. Learning a language while managing life's responsibilities is hard. You're going to stumble. That's expected.
I think that's really important for people to hear because social media makes it look like everyone else is perfectly consistent and successful.
Right, but that's not reality. Behind every successful language learner are hundreds of mistakes, missed practice sessions, and moments of frustration.
The difference is they kept going.
Exactly. And that brings us to maybe the most important time management secret of all. Consistency beats intensity every single time.
Say more about that.
Would you rather practice English for 6 hours one day a week or 15 minutes every day?
Intuitively, I'd say 6 hours is more, but I'm guessing you're going to tell me I'm wrong.
Well, the daily practice is more effective. Here's why. Your brain needs repetition and spacing to build long-term memory. When you cram everything into one session, most of it doesn't stick.
So when you practice daily, you're constantly reinforcing the information?
Exactly. Plus, daily practice builds a habit. Weekly practice is just an appointment.
That makes a lot of sense. So if someone watching this can only commit to 10 minutes a day, that's actually better than trying to set aside 2 hours on the weekend.
For most people, yes. Obviously, more is better, but consistency is the foundation. 10 minutes every day beats 2 hours once a week.
Okay, I think we need to start wrapping up. This has been such a valuable conversation.
It really has, and I hope everyone watching realizes that learning English while managing your deadlines isn't just possible, it's actually a great framework for efficient learning.
Because the time pressure forces you to be strategic and focused?
Exactly. You learn to prioritize what matters, you cut out the fluff, and you make every minute of practice count.
And all those time management skills, time blocking, the 2-minute rule, habit stacking, the 80-20 rule, those don't just help with English learning, they help with everything in life.
Absolutely. So in a way, learning English while managing deadlines is teaching you two valuable skill sets at once.
I love that perspective.
All right, let's recap the key points for everyone watching.
First, use your deadlines as motivation, not excuses. Time pressure can actually help you learn more efficiently.
Second, embrace coffee break learning. 15 minutes of consistent daily practice beats occasional marathon sessions.
Third, integrate your English learning with your deadline work whenever possible. Make them work together, not against each other.
Fourth, focus on the 20% of English that'll give you 80% of results. Be strategic about what you learn.
Fifth, use time management techniques like time blocking, the 2-minute rule, and habit stacking to make English practice automatic.
Sixth, measure your progress with small, achievable milestones. Celebrate the wins along the way.
And finally, remember that consistency beats intensity. Daily practice, even if it's just 10 minutes, is the key to long-term success.
The bottom line is this. You don't need more time to learn English. You need to use the time you have more effectively.
And every single one of you watching this video has small pockets of time throughout your day that you can use for English practice.
It's not about finding time, it's about making time. And with the strategies we've discussed today, you can absolutely learn English while managing your deadlines and living your busy life.
So don't wait for the perfect time to start improving your English, because that time will never come.
Start now. Start small. Start where you are.
And if you found this conversation helpful, make sure to subscribe to Native Speakers. We release new practical English lessons every week.
We cover everything from grammar and vocabulary to pronunciation and real-life conversation practice, all designed to help you actually use English in your daily life.
Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos.
And drop a comment below telling us what's your biggest challenge when it comes to learning English while managing your busy schedule. We read every comment and often make videos based on your requests.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone.
Keep practicing, keep improving, and remember, you've got this.
See you in the next video.